Hopefully. All right. Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Broken Theory. Today we got the homie Smooth Waffle. What's good?
What's happening? How we feeling today?
Yes, sir, man. I just wanted to have you on the show, man, and ask you how this music journey first got started, where it all came from.
Oh man, so I mean it goes as far back to 2006. Just starting out producing on Fruity Loops. It actually goes before that. You remember those MTV generator games?
Yep.
On PlayStation. Yep. Yo, like it honestly goes as far back, being a fan of music and just experimenting on those systems to then thankfully have a cousin that had Fruity Loops.
Yep.
And he put me onto it, and then it just changed my life ever since as far as creation, man.
Word.
So it started back around 2005, 2006, just being a producer, having fun with like the friends. But then I took it seriously as an artist and as a writer, 2010.
Okay.
2010, yep.
That's what's up. As an artist, how do you feel like you found your sound from the point to where you first started up until now? Like, what were some very pivotal moments in your life that kind of just changed your perception with music?
That's a great question, man. A lot of the times when we start figuring ourselves out through art, it can kind of just happens. Then next thing you know, you start emulating your favorite artists, and around the time when I like really started taking it seriously in 2010, 11, transparently, like, I was heavy into OF around that time. Okay. And then just getting introduced to Kendrick Lamar. And my inspirations go far, but around that time, it was a level of freedom I heard when listening to OF. And so a lot of my teenage angst was just coming out.
Yeah.
And it was more of a release. But I feel like sonically, as I continued to create, and then I started entering college, this is when I moved to Philly from Virginia, because originally I'm from Newport News, Virginia. And I had moved to Philly 2011. It was really meeting other like-minded creatives and then just seeing where their passions were that really pushed me to go further with my sound, my world. And naturally, when you do it long enough and you love it, you start really understanding where you fit into the picture.
Yep.
So more of your heart starts to kind of pour into it, and then other things that inspire you, you start researching things. And for me, after a while, as I've grown and as I matured more, I feel like it wasn't until 2017 where I feel like I started really creating my own sound. And this was actually close around the time that you and I first connected.
Yep. I was about to say, because that was the time that I was homeless, 2017. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that was the time I was honestly in my artistry and just taking everything as serious as possible. You know what I'm saying? Because like, I always dabbled around with the music, but just never really like was like, all right, I'm gonna make my own sound. It was always, like you said, emulating the artists that I respected. You know what I'm saying? And I got goosebumps when you was talking about, like, the freedom of like what OF gave you and Kendrick Lamar, because you know what I'm saying, like when they came out, there really wasn't people like that. So it was like, oh wait, we could just talk about whatever we want, like our own struggles, like, I mean, people talk about their struggles before, but just like not so freely like that, like they
no filter
to be accepted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like taking the filter off. And see, with OF, it kind of gave me almost like, at that time for me, because I was a fan of Eminem growing up too, but for me it was like, okay, now I get a sprinkle of this in somebody my age that looks like me, that lives like me.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I related to them so much in a way. And then also the parts that I was outgrowing in high school, it kind of gave me a platform to be like, yo, like, why am I so worried about trying to fit in and do this and that? And it honestly came around the time where I started questioning my faith and everything too, because it was a perfect time for me to learn who I was. And so they were like the soundtrack for that. And then honestly now, like, it's crazy because looking back now, I mean, minus some songs that is still always gonna mean a lot to me, it's damn near hard to listen to some of that now. Because of where my morals and values are now, being a man. And if anything, that speaks to me becoming, like, really stepping into who I am. And you know, every day is a process to just learn who you are. And for the sound and the inspiration you might have now, that could change in 5 months. You know, so I don't never get too attached to where I am, but I will say, like, ever since the recent album, and I'll probably say the same thing when the next project come out, but ever since the recent album, I feel like the recent album, Triumph, was the first album where I had a theme to it, but conceptually, it was like, oh, nah, this is me. This is the most transparent, vulnerable, and most mature me I've been, without it, in my opinion, sounding like anything else.
Nah, that's amazing too, when you can, like, look at the art, well, not look at the art, but hear the art and just recognize, like, yo, hold on real quick, let me step away from this, man. Like, I grew so much as a person. It like makes you appreciate it a lot more and take more pride in it. You know what I'm saying? Because like, I could tell by the way that you were pushing it, like, you were super proud about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it goes down to the artistry as far as, like, as an artist, if you're not making music that you're proud of, if you're making the stuff that's like, you're trying to stay relevant, you're trend chasing and stuff like that, you're not going to be in it. So you're going to drop a song and you're not going to promote it again. But you was going on a run just promoting the same stuff and, like, alternating and stuff like that, bro, to where it was like, you can really see, yo, you proud of the music, man, and you want other people to find it too.
And see, what I could say about that, which also adds to the transformation part, this album particularly, I was like, yo, cause the last couple projects I've done, or anything I feel like I was associated with, I wasn't really inserting myself as densely as I could. I feel like I wasn't taking it as serious. Like, you spend all this time, you get a project together, and then you finally put it out. But I wasn't being as intellectual about everything surrounding the project once it comes out. It's like, once you put it out, it's out then. So what now? And you know, considering since the last project I put out, social media, streaming platforms, it done up. It done up. Like, whether the necessity of being a social media presence, no matter how you feel about that, it's like, now if you really want to, like, push things, you got to be that much more involved in your presence on social media. And honestly, that's still something that I'm learning to configure and understand at this age and at this time. But I just really wanted to treat this album like, bro, like, say if you did have all the backing, say if you did have this or that, what would that look like for you if you had that now? And so I just went as hard as I could, and, you know, really put a lot of light on me, because, you know, it was times where I was extending myself out in some areas, in a lot of areas, and I wasn't pouring a lot more into me, and I was starting to kind of misplace my passion and direction towards the music itself. And I feel like this album,
how so?
Well, because this album captures a lot of where my mindset was 5 years ago coming into now. And I feel like, you know, being an engineer and a producer was one thing, and there was a lot of the times I was doing a lot for my peers and trying to get their projects up and running. But within that, I was starting to kind of lose my own direction with my own art, or at least even what felt good about it. Because as I was putting more efforts into other things outside of me, I wasn't doing enough with me and my art. And I was starting to kind of lose touch of what felt good about it, in my opinion. Because as I was starting to get into other places with the music, I feel like I wasn't in the gym enough with me. You know what I mean? Like,
nah, I completely understand, man.
Yeah,
I went through my own phase to where it was like, bro, I literally stopped making music, like actual music, for like, I want to say maybe 2-3 years, bro. You know what I'm saying? To where it was like I was just solely focusing on making beats, because, you know what I'm saying, like that's where the money was coming in for that. So I was like, well, if this is how I'm making money, why not just like maximize that? And then it was just like, you know, I seen it in my spirit, in my music, and everything, bro. Like it all suffered, you know what I'm saying, as far as creativity and everything like that, man. Like going where the money flows changes everything. You know what I'm saying?
If I may ask you, having gone through that experience and knowing that there's hats that we wear, because we do damn near everything. We engineer, we produce, you know what I mean? We're a different kind of animal when it comes to what we do. So for somebody that is in a position of so many hats, when was it for you that you noticed that for you? Because like you noticed like how it was to get the money coming, and obviously as an artist we want to be able to live off this too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so there is a certain question that comes about sometimes of how we're going to get it, but when you started to see it affecting your artistry or just some of your direction in that, when did that actually arrive to you, and how did that make you feel when you noticed that?
Are you talking about the like realizing that like I wasn't putting my all into
okay.
I mean, it's something that I noticed over time, you know what I'm saying, like as far as like through the back and forth, like going to regular jobs and stuff like that, like showing up, and it was like, you know, my time got very like extremely limited, you know what I'm saying, to where it was like when I did have time to create, it was like, you know, I can't like make a whole song because the kids are up, you know what I'm saying, I can't make a whole song because this, so it was like so many restrictions in why like I couldn't make actual music. It was just like I honestly, just to put for better terms, I laid down and died, you know what I'm saying. I was just like, I give up, you know what I'm saying. And it was on some shit to where it was like, you know, people were asking me for features, things like that, and I would knock them out, but I just never went back to doing my own thing until recently, to where, you know, I did this Soda's Cheaper Than Water album, and another album with the homie Dev Rogers. Shout out to Dev Rogers and Miles Shore. We did an album that's actually what started it back this year, because we did a community called Ground Zero, you know what I'm saying, to where we was doing the virtual open mic pretty much every Wednesday, man. So it's like, you know, I'm hosting it, I'm you know, doing beats and things like that every day, but it was just like I'm listening to everybody's songs, and I was just really inspired by the community that I've built with all of these people, man. So it was like one of the producers that were there, you know what I'm saying, I was just like, yo, I like that track you played, let's lock in. That night, it was 12 o'clock at night, man. Like I ended up just recording to that. And then I sent it to the homie Miles, and then he recorded to it like immediately. So we had the song done by like 1 a.m. And then that was the start of the whole album, because then we just started going track by track. And then after we created that, I was like, man, I got to work on something myself. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know,
start getting the battery going.
Exactly. Again. You hear all the time, man, if you don't use it, you lose it. But it's like, it doesn't hit you until it's so far gone that it's like, how am I going to get that shit back? You know what I'm saying? To where it was like, when I did try to apply myself, I would get so frustrated with myself creatively that it was like, I'm not doing this. I ain't got time for this. You know what I'm saying? Like so many excuses to where it's like, nah, you got to sit down, you got to apply yourself. If it doesn't feel right, don't force it, for sure. But you know, in the long run, exactly, you have to show up in the gym, man. You don't have to release it, but if you're not showing up, you don't create the ability for the creativity to show up through you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's something that I really realized, and it's not something I want to go through again. So I'm trying to make sure I keep, you know, doing that. Let's talk about Triumph, man. How did that all start? You know what I'm saying? As far as the album process, like what was the moment? You just heard how mine started. So like, what was that moment for you?
So Triumph has been in the making since, I want to say since like 2021. Like it started with a couple records that was like, I mean, for lack of another term, like the whole album was really based around where my emotions and my headspace was. And so a lot of that had to deal with interchangeable relationships, with love, as well as it was a time where I'm not gonna lie, there was a time where I was starting to get very frustrated with just where I was, like whether it was extending myself so much or even not trusting myself enough to trust what's around me. Whether
say that one more time. Say that one more time. I don't think they was listening, bro. Say it one more time.
Yeah. I wasn't trusting myself enough to trust what was around me or the reality that was shaping itself to be, like my peers. I wasn't trusting my intuition enough. I was finding myself collaborating or doing things that didn't feel genuine to me. And so a lot of that was creating almost like a suffering or a resentment, but it created some of the most poetic moments within me. And a lot of the album, so as it grew, I've created various songs for the album. I got other cuts that didn't make the album, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it came to 2023, so I had my ideas going. I know where I want to go with it, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm not gonna lie, in that headspace, I was starting to question, what does all this music shit mean, man? Like what am I trying to do with this anymore? Like, is this just fun? Is this a hobby where I wanna, and of course I was thinking about the payment part of it. How long do I see myself doing? Cause I was thinking about ageism, cause I'm 32 now. I was just thinking about all that stuff. And then I entered a relationship at the time that, to be real, like I didn't feel that way about somebody in over 10 years. And that said a lot to me. That said a lot to me in that moment. And so I just really started to think like, damn, man, like, all this and that. And then it was like, you gotta at least put this project out though. Like you gotta at least put something out. If you're not sure about what you want to do, at least put this thing out. And so then I just compiled everything. I started talking to my videographers, and we started hitting the ground running with some ideas. And basically the idea behind Triumph is to really look at yourself in the mirror. I consider it my mirror album because I challenged myself of all those thoughts I said, those critiques, those challenges. And then it's like, so how do I face those older parts of me? But how do I go beyond it? And so a lot of the themes, you'll see a lot of the black and white film noir aesthetics. But to be real, without going too much into the angles, because of course I want to still leave room for interpretation, but it's like imagining my own 1940s film noir. Like when we think about the film noir movies in the past, it's in the past. So it's almost like looking at my past, looking at an old version of myself. The pain that comes with that and facing those afflictions. And so the album hit the ground running, and I'm not gonna lie, that love that I was feeling, it ended with a heartbreak. And then that just amped me up even more, because then it's like, I can't soak in this. I can't soak in it. And so it kind of added the last fuel and battery to just tie the rest of the album together. And I feel like once the rollout started pumping, that was a real-time healing scenario for me. Like, I'm hitting the ground running with some very methodical captions, and you feel my pain, but that was real life pain I'm feeling at the same time, with the heartbreak and then me facing myself, because naturally facing that, I had to end a version of myself that would just blame myself for everything.
And how did that make you feel?
How did it make me feel?
Like realizing that you were coming at that moment to where you're like, it's coming to an end.
Yeah, man.
How did that make you feel?
So I feel like it was, sometimes when I'm sure you could resonate in your own kind of way. Like when you think about your life, where you are sometimes, whether it's in relationships, the scenarios that happen in your life, or sometimes feeling like you got a bad luck with certain things. After a while, like when things just happen a certain way, and then it's like, yo, like why does keep happening like this?
Yeah.
After a while, like you know, you start asking yourself these questions, or you start looking to God or your own God within, and you start like, yo, what is it I'm supposed to gain from this, man? Because either it's really something I'm not paying attention to, or there's something that I'm not entrusting myself enough with, to where, again, reality starts to shape itself based on all the energy you're not putting in, or that you are putting in negatively. And so I feel like I was blackballing myself in a certain way, because naturally, after going through something like that, I damn near didn't want to deal with the world for a bit, because in some way I felt like that just killed a level of love and trust that I thought was even capable, because I thought I was reaching a high that was indescribable. But then the way it ended, it kind of transformed in a way that was so unseen. It was so unseen in a way, and it was like, damn, like, but at the same time, maybe I'm too attached to my past. Maybe I'm too attached to these expectations of what was. So then when it hits me this time, I'm just expecting it almost. You know, but hoping it doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course. So we always gotta, you know, stay ready so we don't gotta get ready. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And so
go ahead.
So to cap that, it's like when I look at my journey and the things I've even rapped about in this album, because a lot of it was from an older perspective, but then the heartbreak kind of fueled it a whole new perspective, because in a way I was reliving what I've been through.
Some of that old stuff. Yep.
Exactly. So that's the trip. That's the trip. It's like, damn, like I'm ready to put this project out. Some of this is some old stuff. But then when I went through what I went through, I'm like, damn, now I'm living through this thing again. And I'm like, it made the music hit even more.
Yeah.
It made it hit again.
Yep.
And it brought a whole new meaning. But in some weird way, I think God was like just like laughing at me, or just the spirit like was like, maybe I need to go through this shit for me to feel this album. For me to really take it seriously and feel the rollout. I felt like I was method acting.
I bet you like whatever you were going through, it got solved immediately after the rollout.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like a lot of it, to be honest, like what I'm treating this album as, I'm treating it like, all right, bro, like a lot of the things that you used to struggle with, whether it was in confidence, whether it was in your belief system, your lack of commitment in certain areas with your craft or whatever, you got to put that shit down now. Now it's like you got to let that shit go. And now it's like I got to step back into my color and really face a more evolved version of myself, because I feel like even the music I was making, as mature and as evolved as it was, I was finding myself lament over certain experiences that I feel like I've been going through with past projects too, as far as certain concepts and topics. I just went deeper in the vulnerability about it and in the root behind it.
Got you.
But now it's like niggas gotta heal now. Now we gotta grow past that. You know what I mean?
So I definitely feel it, man. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the healing and the health journey, man. Like, you know, we both mentioned the same thing, like kind of just noticing that you're going to a different place and the old you dying and stuff like that. I mean, like keeping some of those same friends around that you had during those moments to where, you know, you were at your worst, keeping some of those old friends around, like that bring other habits back into your life, things like that. Like I feel like some of those are the things that like make you kind of like backslide into ways that you really don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, talk about that, man. Like what was that journey like, just becoming healthier, man?
So that journey for me, so it definitely took a lot of a lot of time sitting with myself. And I feel like the great part about all this, time frame currently is that I never allowed myself to heal as seriously or as intentionally as I did this time. Like, I'm a fan of yoga. I'm a fan of meditating. But then it got more consistent. It got more like, this is like really nourishing me in my mentality. And to really, like, you know, when we were younger, I don't think we were asking ourselves like questions like, how does this make you feel? Or what am I supposed to gain from this feeling?
We were told to suppress that. You know what I'm saying? Well, at least me, like, you know, you were really told to suppress that through like other people around you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were looked at as weak if you dealt with those emotions. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like, at least as a culture, you know what I'm saying, we're taught that that's weakness, when actually,
especially as men,
it's awareness.
We've been stigmatized as men to not be as open with our emotions. And you know, I've always been one of them guys that was like very emotionally aware and vulnerable. Of course, it took me time to understand what that power was, because of course, naturally, whether I'm around my homies or certain women, naturally there's still that part of me that's like, I don't want to feel like I'm too soft, or I don't want to feel like this, you know what I mean? Like, but that part there, I leaned more into it because I realized that was always one of my superpowers. And one of the things that taught me, even as a man, right? Because I was having a conversation before, and one of my homies was telling me, like, bro, like, your vulnerability, believe it or not, to a woman, and even for me as a man, the way you handle yourself and the way you stand 10 toes even in light for other people, like the way you show courage to be there for other people even when it's hard for you, because your empathy, that level of awareness that you carry and openness shows a different level of masculinity that a lot of men don't often cherish. Because a man that can be emotionally aware and in tune with how they feel and not be shy to share that as well as with their brothers, right? Because men should be able to be tender with one another. You know what I mean? We should be able to be open. You know what I mean? Of course, in today's day and age, a lot of things almost kind of like became softer, right?
Nah, for real.
Where it's almost kind of neglecting some of the challenges that we should go up against, you know, and I don't never want to be too soft, but I think that there's a time and a place and an awareness to understand and have those conversations. And I was having a lot of that during this album, after the album, and especially with myself. And I think the biggest premise for this project, even outside of myself, what I want people to receive is, it's very important for you to be able to face yourself, to not shy from those things that we're battling, those demons, those addictions, those traumas, no matter what it is, you know? And it's like, you know, it almost sounds cliche nowadays, right? But to be honest, as much as the mental health community, right, it's a love-hate thing, because everything that becomes consistent sometimes becomes trendy and gimmicky. But I love that this has become a present thing, because think of how much years we've dealt with being trained and programmed by our parents who have never chose to deal with that shit enough. And we're the spawns of the traumas that they went through, either post-slavery shit or crack era shit. And it's like, now it's like we're learning as a generation how to actually understand these things. So hopefully by the next time we have kids, or like you having kids, now those conversations become easier for when they grow.
Yep.
They're more in tune with their emotions. They're either not suppressing it, or they're not battling to work through it and be numb to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because we as a society and a culture, we're numb to a lot of shit we shouldn't be numb to.
Yeah. No, I feel like you know what I'm saying, like being able to be so self-aware about what you're going through, it helps you with the discipline. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know for a fact that you're struggling with vices, you're struggling with things that aren't good for you, that aren't helping your artistry, that aren't, you know what I'm saying? If you keep continuing to lie to yourself, then it's like you're not gonna see a time until it's too late to turn that shit around. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you don't want to be in the position to where you have to turn it around in order to do it. You would rather, I mean, me personally, I would rather do it to where it's like I'm choosing to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I got 10 days or I'm gonna die. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, you know what I'm saying, on something like that. But, you know, being aware is the key, and just showing everybody that, you know, you're human is one of the biggest things, man, because everybody's human. You know what I'm saying? And I think because of the social media, because of the patterns and things that were handed down, all of the trauma and stuff like that, we were molded into thinking that things have to be a certain way when they don't. You know what I'm saying? If somebody thinks you're soft because you told them, hey, the way you talked to me the other day, it didn't make me feel good. It actually made me feel like I was gonna slap the shit out you. But you don't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm saying though, if you can't communicate that to your homie, and you have to really just separate yourself and not talk to them or do stuff like that, that's not growing. That's not being human. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, not to cut your wisdom, but
you good,
even
bro.
with what you're saying, to add to that, I think the biggest reason why I look to be a representative of emotional intelligence and vulnerability in my art, besides being inspired by the people I love, you know, music, I just think we'd save a lot more lives.
Oh yeah.
If niggas would be a lot more clear, or at least they had the safe space amongst their people. We'd have a lot less suicides. We have a lot less niggas having beef and problems and doing stupid shit to hurt each other because it's something that couldn't be communicated. And we have a lot less women in trouble or feeling like they're in detrimental spaces with men. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's important. Like, I take that to be accountable for myself. You know, and I realize sometimes not everybody's gonna get it. Not everybody's gonna understand the clarity that comes with that. And then some people might even consider it too much. But you know, I've received a lot more praise and appreciation for the clarity I've been able to provide as an artist and as a human being. And I feel like it does wonders, man.
If you just change one person's life, man, like if one person hears your art and they're like, man, I was really going through it, man, I appreciate you, man, thank you. Your job is done, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether you realize it or not, your creativity is flowing through God, and it's like certain things is coming out for certain people that you may not realize that are listening to you at that same time. But like, I'm sure a lot of people that heard your album was like, damn, I'm going through this right now. Like,
yo, if I may, one thing that stood out from the reception so far that I'm very grateful and thankful. I'm thankful to anybody that just takes a second to listen to anything off of it. The one thing that I've received a lot was, of course, being inspired, but it was the level of vulnerability, or the level of people getting to know me on a different level that they didn't know. And I remember when I had my listening party before it dropped, I had gotten feedback from a lot of people in these forums, and the one thing that really stood out to me, there was a consistent theme that people were saying. It was like, yo, I'm inspired to become better with how open I can share and communicate with others how I feel. You know what I mean? And that stood out to me. That stood out to me because that's something, you know, I used to struggle with that myself. And it's like, that means a lot to me to know that people feel like they want to become more open or vulnerable with people they care about.
Finesse, baby.